Hello and welcome, I'm Kiersten Scribner, and I am here to do a thing that I said I was going to do 2 and a bit years ago, so we are right on time in this channel. So I really admire Greg from Supposedly Fun, and he does this every month, and he goes through the books that he brought into his bookshelves and what he has done with them now. I will continue just to collect books throughout my life, but I don't have a great habit of doing book hauls or talking about the books on my shelves, and I'm also a great library reader, which means that I often read from the library and I don't read the books on my shelves. Some of these books I have never talked about on my channel, so we are going to remedy that today. And throughout this year, as we go through and talk about the books that I brought in the various years. I started my channel in 2017, and I really started counting the books that I brought in 2018. So 2017 will be a little shoddy. The only book that I have record of bringing into my library in January of 2018 is The Grey Wolf Throne. And I intended for it to be visible here, and I didn't do the camera right, so just a moment. This is a weird angle, but these are some of my favorite fantasy books, and we have The Grey Wolf Throne right here, as well as the 2 other books in the series. This is one of my favorite series of all time since I was 18, and I only own 3 of them because I'm a thrift buyer, and that's the way that I am. In 2019, I only have 1 book, and this was a Christmas present. So this is an anthology of 19th century and early 20th century writers, and it is really nice. It is gold and has a lot of the things. These are the Bronte's poems right here. So yes, I have read 9 out of the 20 odd numbers that are in here. Some of them are like very short, like poems, and some of them are entire novels like Frankenstein. It is a book that I won't technically count toward having read the entire thing, but if I never finish every single story in that collection, it's okay. I like having anthologies of women writers. So far we're doing pretty good because we're mostly 2 for 2. So then we go to 2020, and these are the books that I brought in 2020. These are not well organized at all. You can tell which book was new and was a present, and I will talk about that book first. This is The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein. This is a favorite book. A trend on my channel is that my favorite books are the ones that are new, and they're the only books that I know. This section is also very empty because this is a collection of several of my favorite works, which often get given to me around Christmas or I buy with Christmas money. So yes, this is a retelling of Frankenstein's wife, and I think it is absolutely wonderful. I read it 2 or 3 times and loved it every time. The next book I took into my library in this month was The Awakening by Kate Chopin, and I had previously read this as one of my early classics, and I reread it since then. And I thought that I would like it more because it's more a feminist story. We have this woman who has been married for a while, but she's still in her 20s, and she embarks on an affair. And some of the writing was very funny. I laughed, and I thought that I might have just been too critical in my first reading, but I don't think that it's a great story. So I bought it with the hope that I would reread it and like it more, but I did not. There's also just a lot of racism in here that I was really disappointed. It takes place in the South, and you can definitely feel that. Another book that I bought in January of 2020 that I'm disappointed by is Walden by Henry David Thoreau. I read this just in November. I have an entire vlog there, and it just made it to my worst books of 2023. And I did kind of call it trash there. I don't think that Thoreau was a terrible man. I like Civil Disobedience by him, but this is a book that I think rendered a lot of really bad takes in modern land, and it has really shown that independence and self-reliance is the most important thing, and really doesn't have a lot of understanding that, you know, people can't always just pull themselves up by their bootstraps and go and live in a forest. Anyways, I have read this, and it was for a long time in my coveted classics right there, and I have removed it down to my lower shelves where it will not appear on camera. That is my thoughts on it. The first book that I've not touched at all is Fathers and Sons. This is a Russian translated book about generational divide, and I'm super interested in reading it. Mere Christianity is a book that I am in the midst of. I have gotten a fair bit. You can see that there's some underlines in there. I think that I will be picking up on audio because, you know, I love C.S. Lewis, but sometimes I don't want to always read the same things over and over again. It is really interesting on some of the ways that Christianity is being developed, etc. In 2021, there was no books that came into my shelf either by gifts or by being bought. And that's cool because 2022, there was a lot of books. And you can tell these are a lot of new books because the first several will have all been gifts from Kara from the Wild Book Garden. She is amazing, and she bought me several of her favorite books, and I'm really excited. I have not read any of them. As I was going through and documenting all of the books that I've taken in my library and I have record of, I've noticed that I have like almost a 2-year kind of list. Like, you notice pretty much every book that I've taken in before 2022 I've read, and then once we've only had the bookshelf on a year or 2, I probably haven't read it. When I hear other booktubers talk about their channels, they often talk about how, you know, once a book comes in, they immediately want to read it, and then if they don't, they never read it. And I feel like, no, it needs to come and, like, you know, marinate a little while, and then I'll be like, yes, now I want to read them. So yeah, I don't know, it just happens for me. So the first book is Sherwood by Megan Spooner, and it is a retelling of Robin Hood with Marion as the main character. And I've been really excited to read this, and I know that it's one of her favorite books. So hopefully this summer. The next book is A Face Like Glass, and I think you can tell both me and Kara love retellings, and this is a retelling of Alice in Wonderland, and it's dark and middle grade, and I should have read it by now. I'm excited. I just needed it to marinate, you know? That is the same with Wild Beauty. I'm really excited to read this as well. Who would have guessed? Who would have guessed? This is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast by her love, Anna Marie McLemore. I was trying to be cute, but I couldn't say it all in one go. And then she got me her favorite children's classic of all time, The Secret Garden. I am really excited and hopeful. This is a classic that I don't know much about, and I am really excited to have it. And I did put it on my classics books for 2024. So that is the hope. And then last, but certainly not least, we have Brown Girl Dreaming. This is one of my favorite books. I really love this book, and I believe that Kara read it on my recommendations. That's even specialer because, you know, when you love a book and then someone else loves a book because of that. And yeah, she gave it to me, and it was really precious. So yeah, I'm really excited. It is in verse, and it is a memoir, but reads like a novel. It is groundbreaking. And then we have I Got Christmas Money, and I was like, I never buy new books, and like, I really want to. So I did splurge a little bit. I splurged indeed. We have the posthumous memoirs of Brás Cubas. This is translated from Portuguese and originated, it is an 1880s classic from Brazil. I have read some of his other works. I have started this. I really need to finish it. It's not a true start because like I read a few pages, but he's hilarious. I want to read it in 2024. I have been a little intimidated. We have The Rover by Aphra Behn. She's a playwright from the 1700s, and she's so cool. She wrote Lover's Vows, which was adapted and talked about as being scandalous in Mansfield Park. I read it during Jane Austen July in 2021, and I was in love with it. I laughed so much. It was remarkable. Like, I was like, I'm gonna read it. It's gonna be fun. It's from, you know, the 1790s. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. These are her most famous plays, and I'm really excited to read them, and I shouldn't keep on delaying them, you know? I'm terrible at doing this with classics where I'm like, I have forever to read them, but I want to read them now. It was one of the most delightful months because I love Brown Girl Dreaming, and then I also got In the Dream House, which was one of my favorite books. This is a memoir about domestic abuse, and it is written like kind of looking at fairy tales and gothic and all of those things. It is such a wonderful book, and I was so excited to own it. I just like look at it and read parts of it. And then I got 2 translated works of fiction. We got Kim Jiyoung, born 1982, which I have read a fair bit. We can see that I have a bookmark in it, and I read it all in one day and like read like 40 pages and underlined and thought and like had so many feelings, and then I got intimidated. This is showing how much I get intimidated by books. It does really happen. I feel it, and I wanted to read it last year, and this happened in January of 2022 that I like read it, and then like I hoped to go back to it, but I never felt like I was in the perfect mood. And then I did that all the way through 2023 again, and I don't want to do that in 2024 because it's so good. Even though these aren't by the same author or anything, these are thematically linked in my head, so I feel like until I read Kim Jiyoung, born 1982, I can't read The Vegetarian by Han Kang. So that has happened. I'm excited. This is about a woman who gives up meat, and it is not narrated by her, but around the people around her, and I think that it's going to be really brilliant when I read it. So we have 2023, and then we have our wrap up. And the first book that I took into this month was Her Body and Other Stories. I was overjoyed. Like, this is a pristine copy. This is by the same author as In the Dream House, and I didn't like this collection as much, but I did really love The Husband Stitch, which I reread when I got it, and it is really glorious. And I love that these go next to my shelves. She's a wonderful master of like feminist gothic horror, and her 3 books that I read have all been really wonderful. This is my least favorite, but it is still really good. And the last book that I'm going to talk about is not going to be in my hands because I don't want to pick it up. I'm going to have some B-roll because I have masterfully done my hallway shelves, and it is at the bottom of my stack of poetry, and I tried to get it out, and I don't want to have everything topple. So this is a collection of poetry, and it is about disability and about womanhood and about all of those other things. And I know nothing about this book. I just picked it up because I was like, that seems good, and it was a thrift store. So yeah, I really hope to read this book. I feel like this could be a book that I read in the next year. If I just prioritize it, it's a poetry collection. I could read it very quickly. But who knows what I'm going to do. I've taken 20 books in over 7 years, and I have read 8 of them. The big asterisk on everything, though, is only 1 of them have I read for the first time since they came in. And I also reread The Awakening. And then I have 3 more that I've partially read. So yes, that gives me up to 11 if I'm being generous. But if we're going to 8, I have read 40% of the books that I brought in the last 7 years. I do feel happy with this. I like the books that I brought in. I don't have any huge regrets other than books that I didn't like, but like, I couldn't have known that at the time, you know? And wait, did I miss Four Loves? When I was talking about C.S. Lewis, I also picked up Four Loves by him, and it was in a different place, so I didn't grab it, and I forgot to talk about it. But it is a book that looks at the different ways that Greek uses the word love in the Bible. And yeah, I've read essays on it, so I know that's really interesting, and I do hope to read it sometime soon. I'm happy with the books that I brought in. I am still interested in reading the ones that I have not read, and I think that the book that I want to prioritize reading in the next year is Fathers and Sons. I think that this is going to be my perfect book, and it's short, so I can read it physically. I also really want to read the books that Kara gave me, and you know, I do think that, like, especially Sherwood is calling me to sit down and just read it. And I think that it could be fun and delightful. So that is my first book haul revisit video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Let me know any of your comments, any of your feedback. Should I have a more critical view on the books that I brought in? I would love to know your thoughts, and I will see you in February.